Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Team Meeting 28. We're very sorry about Meeting 27. That was completely my fault. I
No,
wasn't
no, no, no,
preparing.
no, 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 no. You're not taking that one. Taking that one. Um, it was not. It was not just your fault. I mean, periodically, we do have stuff that pops up, and we can't have a live meeting. As you know, we stream our meetings. We are more transparent about our internal operations than anybody else, pretty much. And that's so. No, you had some work you had to do. So don't take
Well,
all the
that's what. Well, no, but that's what I wanted to say. If you'd have let me finish, I was going to say that it was my fault. I had some work that I had to do. I was doing, as you know, I'm doing an internship with a serious gaming company and gathering lots of information and good intel for all our faculty members to use and things that our students can use to their advantage. So I was doing serious work for a planner, and so we had to miss Tweet Meeting 27 last week. Well, so actually, officially, this would be Team Meeting 27, but we're going to call it 28 because we like
well,
that.
well, Daniel, I also, sorry to have stepped in there. I also, you do excellent work, and I also, sometimes both you and I will tend to we will tend to internalize and process our blame and focus in on ourselves when really, hey, stuff happens and we have to handle some other junk. So it's not it's not a big. Just looking out for you like you look out for me.
Thank you, Rob. I'd say I love this guy. So back to the serious work. What are we going to be discussing now? Captain Kirk, Dan, our Director of Operations, is currently at Philadelphia Airport, so we might be getting in contact with him very soon over a sat phone or something like that. But what we're going to discuss today is the steps for the accreditation. We're going to be talking about partnerships, generators, and universities, search for admissions, and our Northeast test bed. And I'm very interested to hear about that because that's going to be an interesting discussion, which I'd love to have. So over to you, Rob.
Yeah, well, anyone who's listening, I know these are fun conversations for everybody, and are growing more popular by the day. So if you're listening to the team meeting and want to chime in, send us a tweet. Tweet to @aplerno, or you can also send us questions at aplerno.com, and they will pop up on the screen. I will not be sharing my screen in the meeting. But what we're going to do is, if you want to chime in, please do, because we're always open to questions. So, want to talk a little bit about. So over the past, when we had Woodblock early August, we talked about the steps for accreditation, and the idea I had of first we're building the courses, then we're going to be building the certificate programs, expanding out the idea of the transfer credits and getting those particular things set. Then we add the whole piece on starting the degree program. And in the U.S., we have to go through accreditation by first applying, like we did, and we're successful for approval to offer courses for credit, and then we're able now to that we announced in our update that came out in early September that we're able to create certificates on various subjects, and we're getting more and more. Dan Kirk has created a section of our project management software, a little app called the title is Certificate and Degree Granting Authority Areas, so we can keep track of when different people apply and submit programs and certificates for approval. We've already got that with our marketplace program, and so we're starting to get those certificate programs really fleshed out. And not only that, we're starting to get, there's more and more people who are starting to interact interfaculty-wise to create these certificate pieces. So that's working well. So we're going to do kind of like a little bit of a lily pad, a leapfrogging approach. We have courses, and then, if you're a professor, you need to find courses that are attached to, we think that marketing courses within certificates is going to be another way to attract students. Then what we've got is taking those certificates, adding them together, and that will be part of some individuals who wanted to be getting a degree. And what's really interesting is last night I got the outline of the proposal for while the professor called it a certificate, it's a 30-credit certificate program, which actually jumps it up to to a degree program. So I haven't gotten permission to release that professor's name yet, but I'm hoping that'll come in the next couple of days. But this is a really good outline of a 30-credit program that it's a specialized professional in a professional area, and what we have to do now is think about what kind of general education credits we want to add in and how we're going to do that. So for Applerno, and we've got to get a little, Daniel and I have been doing all kinds of other stuff and haven't had a chance to really sit down and chat. We've got to engage the faculty, which is what's our transfer credit policy? We know that we want that to be as open as possible, so we're going to accept Coursera credits, okay? Meaning that if you take an exam for Coursera or edX and it's a certified exam and you take the class, you might be able to substitute that in for one of the courses. There are general education credits that different universities and such offer. And I'm forgetting actually another one. When you think about it, we've had also discussions centered around a really, really interesting course, and I can't really talk about it yet publicly. But we've also had, besides this professional studies piece, we've got a whole nother raft of a degree program in a really cutting edge field that is more technical based and computer based. So it's really going to be interesting to see how both what traditionally has been kind of like a vocational technical or professional degree program on the one end, and then really what I would call is sort of, a really applied knowledge degree program on the other. And, we'll have, those announcements. Hopefully we'll be able to announce that in the next, couple of weeks. But, remember that one of the things about Applerno is I get a little bit impatient about sort of the velocity. Okay, I think we all do get a little impatient about the velocity of Applerno in terms of how fast are we taking off. But then I remember that most public universities take a year or 2 years to develop a degree program, and then go through all the rigmarole. And we're really cutting that process down to, we just announced, I don't know, 18 days ago about the fact that we were allowed to create certificates, or you might stretch that back out to 6 weeks ago when we were talking about woodblock, and now we have some very legitimate certificate proposals going. So this is a really long, it's not a long slog for accreditation when you compare it to other institutions that take multiple years to get theirs. We can apply for accreditation to become a degree granting institution in the state of Vermont once we have a few of these things set, and once we've got the general education credit piece really wired up, and the transfer credit policy really wired up, and a few of the student support services wired up, and that's happening. And I want to push and have us be at the place where we submit our paperwork, sometime around 6 months from now, maybe a little less. But I definitely want to be through that process. So as long as we have everything, lined up and lined up, and we've got really good relationships with the state of Vermont in terms of our communications with them, we can announce with the programs once they're set. Then we'll do a big announcement, really saying, hey, we can accept students into these certificate or degree programs. We cannot offer them yet. Meaning we can't grant them until we've got that authority from Vermont. But we're going to be able to, once I feel that the quality is high enough and that we've got all the particular systems in place, then we're going to move to that process. And again, that's really quick. Think about it. In May, we just we received approval, and now we can offer certificates. So that's going well. And of course, once we hit Vermont, once we get approval to be a degree granting authority in the state of Vermont, we're going straight for the national and the regional accreditation. That's going to be a more long, drawn-out process, but we can do it. It's not. It's complicated. It's complex, but I've been through it before, and we can also draw on lots of knowledge in our local group and our local community to help us with that, and our global community, because the faculty are spectacular. So enough of my yakking and preaching. Do you, Dan and Daniel, you guys got any questions?
Well, I think Dan is probably. He's all set.
He's probably. Dan, are you listening in? Because you're in Philly. Yep, having it. Are you? Is it early? It's early morning there. So did you order the Philly cheesesteak at the local? Totally. Yes.
Totally. Yeah. Of course. This is one of these American things that I've just never had, a Philly cheesesteak.
Yeah, it's thin sliced cheese with thin sliced beef with cheese on top on a sub roll or like a baguette, and with all kinds of mystery sauce.
It sounds absolutely delicious. I think I should glue it straight to my stomach.
Okay.
No, but as I tell you every time, I'm stoked every time I hear that we go one step further into the direction of becoming a fully fledged institute, getting our accreditation done, getting all the things in place that we need, and I'm just amazed at the speed that we're going, and I think it's fantastic. I was recently talking to.
We've got a few. There are going to be a few hiccups, but no, I think the velocity is great. The velocity is great. We just have to stick to our knitting and not compromise on the quality piece.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, and especially if we look at, I think it was it last week or the week before that, where we hit 150 courses that are currently requested. And I think we're now at 10 courses which we've approved for instruction. I'm still very excited, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's good. Again, the larger the catalog we have, the more interested I think students are going to become. And we'll talk a little bit about, one of the things to attract students is the concept is legitimacy. Okay, and it's a little bit of legitimacy by association. So the most interesting thing about creating partnerships, and we're looking for partnerships with with colleges and universities. And we can talk a little bit about the in the Northeast, the issue in the Northeast of the U.S. We're really looking for universities right now and colleges to start creating what are called articulation agreements. Okay, and what they basically are is that college or university recognizes our courses and they want to be in partnership with us for classes. Let me tell you how it kind of works. At all kinds of institutions over in the world, you can only offer a limited number of classes if you're a place-based institution of higher learning. So you might have students who, for example, really want to actually find a course. They love their college that they're at, but they really need a class in, well, let's say, computer security and hacking. Okay, and
As you do.
what?
As you do.
Yep. So they really want a course to take as a supplement to their computer science degree. And what we can do is we can offer that college or university access to our faculty so that the students can access those classes, those extra classes online. And the biggest thing is that by having the faculty own the IP again, okay, our development cost for courses is a whole lot lower. Faculty get paid a whole lot more money. Okay, students pay a whole lot less. But what's really interesting is the institution may end up having less costs also. Okay, and how that works is that lots of colleges and universities contract out with, in the U.S., large textbook companies, which are kind of trying to change and become sort of also large online education publishers. Okay. And so, for example, if you Google Pearson's, okay, and Pearson's, you can actually kind of like buy a curriculum for colleges and then integrate them wholeheartedly into your system, which is happening at some really large universities in the U.S., like Arizona State University, looked upon as one of the best colleges, universities in the country, or research universities. Well, it costs a tremendous amount of money for those to sign a contract with Pearson's. They also have all these ancillary things that you should sign up to, like tutoring and all kinds of stuff. Well, when you have the faculty owning the IP and the class is very, very small, your costs to provide all those extra ancillary services are a whole lot lower. And you have a whole lot better ability to kind of pick and choose a little bit who you want to deal with. The only thing that Plerno, what we're kind of doing is we want to make sure that the faculty get those kinds of the fees, that the same 90-10 rule sticks. Okay, in other words, faculty get 90% of the tuition revenue. Plerno gets 10. People are interested in that, and we're taking our first, with a institution of higher education that will go unnamed. We're taking those first steps of negotiating and talking about, well, how can we help, the traditional institutions of higher ed to provide better service to, again, not lower their costs, but how can we create some kind of partnership where they're getting some extra value added. There's also really interesting ideas about, can our faculty become sort of an institution, a university has a need to develop a particular type of class and with particular types of skills, and they can kind of use us and contract out with that professor, and then the professor again has the licensing piece. Now where it gets tricky is I want to make sure we fill classes, okay, that faculty, that's where the money is, okay, is in teaching students, okay, and that's where we can leverage ourselves and leverage the faculty's work. But since we have limited class sizes to 20, 25 students, if a faculty member creates something really, really good, they can maybe teach 3 sections of that, okay, but they might want to license their curriculum to other instructors to teach, and they need to be able to get paid for that. So, I'm really looking hard at trying to create, again, those 90-10 relationships where I'm shooting as much revenue out to the faculty members as possible, and we're taking our cut. And the great thing is that contract that the faculty have signed, that 150, it's larger than that. The contract that's listed on the website states very clearly faculty own all the IP. So if you wanted to do this or you wanted to be a part of it, there's going to have to be another contract that faculty are going to have to agree to. So, this is not a case, this is definitely not a case of, a player knows trying to, monetize via data and all this, or going to take your knowledge and sell it on the cheap. Quite the contrary. We're really, really transparent about, and I've been transparent in my conversations, that we are not interested in, getting certain fees for headhunting, or certain, doing stuff behind faculty's back. This is going to be totally transparent, and faculty are going to own the IP. So, yeah, it's going to be, it's pretty cool. We'll see how these things develop. You got to find the right institution to do that. Another piece, the generators. We're looking actively for we might have found one, for a makerspace to work with to start developing some vocational technical courses. Like, I really want to see a program in advanced 3D manufacturing. That's a huge issue, with the whole development of 3D printers, and also now they've developed things to print houses. Okay, big printers that print houses using concrete and these other materials. So
yeah, there's one just around the corner from me, from where I live, where they print houses. It's really, it looks absolutely amazing.
It's genius, and so you can see a whole raft of skills and new industries that are going to develop because of that technology, and we can't wait around for traditional higher ed to develop these programs. We've got to develop them much more quickly and get them out to people. And so we want to find. So if you're out there and you're listening, and you know of really good maker spaces, shoot me an email. I've got one that's interested in Vermont, but I really want to very quickly expand the network to outside Vermont. And we'll talk about the test bed in a second. And we're looking for all kinds of, I've got some meetings scheduled with some other groups about these groups, some computer modeling organizations and systems to create certificate and degree programs there. So, things are bubbling up with that. But you can create a really great institution, but you got to have students. And you got to have really good admissions. And right now, while we have had some interest and some people signing up and paying us for classes, those numbers aren't high enough. We haven't cracked, and everybody needs to chime in. We haven't cracked how to get at the 18 to 25-year-old crowd who really is getting hurt by student debt or who really is not happy with traditional higher ed. We have not cracked that piece, and we're working really hard to do that. Would you guys agree that's probably the biggest issue we've got right now? Customers, students.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm just going to say goodbye to Dan because he has to board his flight now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is one of the one of the things that's currently mostly in our way that we don't know, that we lack knowledge. Basically, if we're an educational institute that needs to learn for ourselves as well, of course, as everybody else. And so this is one of the things that we, if we had a course on this, it would be fantastic. I'd take it immediately. But there's absolutely further potential there, and I think there's a lot of places that we can learn. And we also need to learn from the faculty members. Of course, our faculty members are far closer to their current students, and they know the type of students that they're looking for in their further class, and they have a good profile of their students, and they know far better than us where they can find them, whether this is in the certain hip coffee shops or in the coffee bars or wherever their students hang out. And of course, there's as I was reading this weekend the book 4%, which discusses the 4% of matter that we can actually see in the universe. It's a cosmology physics book quite interesting about the history of cosmology and physics, and they were very much focused on there's a tight group of people who love cosmology and astronomy and physics, and that they don't meet each other while their two knowledge bases overlap, at least in history, and I know it's slightly different now. They overlap very much, and they really need to find each other, and that's what we have. That's what we have as well. We have a lot of knowledge on one area, and knowledge that we want to share with other people, and we looking for the right people that we can share it with, which I think is very.
Yeah, I don't want to name names. We had a wonderful candidate who, in terms of our community and media position, and he actually talked himself out of the position. Okay, talked us out of giving him the position. Okay.
Very deftly, I might say. Yeah.
He did. It was genius. Okay, a person whose name is on the top list. Okay, of people who I'm going to contact in 6 months when we do start to scale. Absolutely genius. We talked about that we haven't yet connected with that audience, and really caused us to talk about the next piece, which we'll get to in a second, about the Northeast testbed. Admissions is it's really funny. While I did admissions and started a school 20 years ago, okay, and granted it was a secondary school, so it was a different piece, I'm really realizing how, through some conversations with former students who are in college or just out of college, about how out of touch the admissions process is to young people. Because they're concerned about very different things now. They're concerned about the debt. They also have a very big distrust of, I'm 46, okay, a hobbit living in Vermont. I'm not the voice of this, of the generation.
You're an old guy?
I'm an old dude, man. I'm old. So there is this distrust of people over 30, which is probably justified. And that institutional bias. So it's really, how do you create these bridges? How do you find these individuals that can bridge the two worlds, where we're trying to create something that people can use to educate themselves, okay? But really, the standard bearer are the people that are actually using the tool, and how do we find those? And so it's more like the guerrilla marketing piece, okay? But how do we connect and find a few young people who are very smart, very intelligent, self-motivating, and how do we learn from them and make them a really integral part of this team of a Plerno? Because while we're building the foundation, they're going to be using the tool, and they need to be part of that process from the get-go. So I don't know, sure, it'd be great to get a New York Times story written about us or something like that, but we still don't, the ignorance that we suffer right now of who the customer is. So, and I, people are going to probably go over of customer, but, using that business terminology, the students. Who are the students? Who are the customers? Okay, this is a business. This is an educational institution. But who are they, and what do they need? What do they say they need, and how do we meet their needs? Versus what's happening right now is that we're taking students and we're putting them into their raw material that we shove into the cookie cutter factory, and out pops a degree from an elite school, and it doesn't work. So that's a really it's a tough thing, because again, traditional admissions officers not that great in terms of doing.
Well, of course, one of the big issues with the traditional schools as well is that they're not really targeting students. Students don't have any money. Students can't make decisions over their own life. At least that's what I see. What a lot of the opinion is. They target their customer is not the student. Their customer is the parent, the person who's going to pay, the person who's whether you like it or not, they consider to be responsible for the young adult. who considers them responsible for the young adults, and there's just not the case anymore. There are a lot of difficulty getting parents. From what I've been reading, parents aren't paying the full amount. Students are having to work. They're having to pay for their admissions themselves out of their own pockets with whatever type of muck job that they have.
Yep. Well, and there is the huge issue of scale. So on Thursday, I went to this talk down at Middlebury College on online learning, and I did hijack their Twitter feed. For those of you who are following Aplerno's, Aplerno, we totally hijacked the Twitter feed, which is fine. I mean, that's a hysterical piece. But up there was talking a really, a great guy, very intelligent, head of school of Andover Exeter, which is one of the elite boarding schools, secondary schools in the country. Then, I couldn't help myself. I was like, wow, we're listening to him. And then I have my computer open while I'm, listening and watching, so I can look up references that they're doing in the text. And I looked up Andover and Exeter, and I realized that has 300 students. Okay, and a huge endowment. And so I said, I sort of realized, wow, give me, $1 billion and 300 students, and I can really, hey, I have to be the biggest screw up to fail, okay, to meet their particular needs. I'd have a little bit more respect if we added. I would listen to his arguments, and his arguments would have more validity if he added 3 zeros onto his school enrollment. But he's not going to. He can't. It upends the model too much. But yet we spend so much time deferring to these institutions, these really elite institutions, and when you think about how many people they serve, which is very small, with the amount of money they expend or they have to serve those students, good God, of course you're going to do a great job. It's absurd to spend $1 billion on 2,500 students. We have the shot at Aplerno of being larger than Exeter. I know our faculty is larger than Exeter, but we can be larger than Exeter in, the goal is to be larger than them by January. Now, can we be larger than, Middlebury, where I went to school, 2,500 students? Probably in 2 or 3 years. Of course, it took them, 100 years to get there. So why aren't we talking about scale and cost? Okay, how can you maximize the quality of the education, lower the cost, and and not put people into debt, but also pay your faculty a living wage? Those are the things that we should be concentrating on, not this. I'm just okay. My leveler. I wouldn't call it leftist, but my conservative Scottish roots are coming out in terms of being a leveler and all of that. It just made me realize how we're so right on track, and we're going to kick things over. But it's a little, good God, what the hell? So that's sort of the update on what we're thinking. And yeah, you wanted to add anything, because I yammer on quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I love to hear you yammer on, but I agree with so much of what you're saying, and I always get a strange feeling when I hear the amount of money that some of these elite schools are paying, and they're spending, and to see how badly they're paying their faculty, which is mostly contingent or adjunct faculty. I just wonder where all this cash is going, and I think I worry about this. I'm reading too many bad news articles about faculty members or adjuncts and contingent faculty members. I worry about what the direction that this is going, and I really see that we can make a difference in there, and I think that's very important for our faculty members. But I think that certainly for our students, to actually have their money, their hard-earned money, going into the pockets of the right people. I think that's also very important. I think that people don't want their monies going into pockets of big administration or big
Yeah,
administrators. And that's my conservative side coming out. So.
Well, we need to design for the 3 billion and not the 300.
Yeah.
And we need to be doing things that make education accessible for 3 billion people on the planet, so that they can hit their full potential. Not any enough of this. Let's well, our admission standards have increased 15%. The SAT scores are blah blah blah. An amazing book came out called Excellent Sheep. By a Yale professor about a real great critique of higher ed. He's sick of it. He doesn't like it. He thinks it's absolutely counterproductive on a whole variety of different levels, and he's kicking it up. But the biggest thing is we always defer to these jokers. If they went to Yale or Harvard or an elite school, Oxford, Cambridge, we defer to these jokers, and we need to stop that, because they don't know anything more than the rest of us. They just come from a fancier institution, and I guess that's the biggest thing that dynamic has to switch. This constant deference to to a very, very small section who really only is educating a very small subset of human beings on the planet with an incredible number of resources. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who cares? Okay? Give me $1 billion, I'll produce for you anything of high quality. It's not going to be that tough. Okay? And yeah. Anyway, enough. Enough of that Subcomandante Marcos commentary.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not even going to add any comments to that.
So I want to talk a little bit about the Northeast testbed. So we're still looking to expand globally, and we are expanding globally all the time and can offer our courses. But in order to sort of learn about creating these partnerships and relationships, and also to get us some traction for sort of like I would call them, our first 1,000 people who are engaging in education, that's really our big test group. Okay. In order to get those, we're going to concentrate some admissions work on the Northeast. We're going to still concentrate on faculty, but we've got to kind of like concentrate on faculty, and we're going to concentrate on the whole world, but we've got to kind of deal with using the Northeast of the U.S. as a test bed for some of the initiatives we're creating until we get as kind of our minimal, I don't know, maybe we call it our minimum viable student body. But use that to generate that piece as we continue to expand globally in terms of courses in other languages that the courses support. So we're looking for a director of admissions / marketing in the Northeast, but the position isn't going to be a standard cookie cutter piece. We've also had some interesting calls from people I had a great conversation with a gentleman from North Carolina who would also be sort of, North Carolina might be, he's got the skills where that could be a really interesting test bed. So trying to think of how do we organize, create partnerships, organize things, but get more people involved in producing these networks of exchange and getting more students and hacking that. If somebody were to approach, because I'm actually talking with 2 people, one over in the UK and one in India this week, I'm going to kind of pitch that idea. Hey guys, if you want to be director of admissions or something like that in Northern Europe or in South Asia, how do we conceptualize that? How do we create that in light of the fact that we are running a very tight ship? We're not Minerva or Coursera where we're blowing 10 million. We really want to make sure that the business model works from the get-go. And so how do we create something that actually is sustainable and what does that look like in different regions of the world. But for right now, because I really want to, we really want to hit that 1,000 students, or start filling some classes. Really want to use the Northeast as the test bed for that. Please do not think that we are going to be, that's the only thing we're looking. We're just going to use the Northeast again, test bed. Check stuff out. Try to establish ourselves there rather than slicing off the entire planet to eat in one big gulp. One big bite.
Absolutely. As I hear from you, I do hear some hesitation in your voice. Of course, you would say we have world domination plans. Of course, we do wish to get ourselves out there and have everybody here know about us. But we have to. We're starting somewhere where we can actually oversee it. It's very difficult as somebody told us recently, that for a country that we're not in, or a region that we're not in, it's very difficult to oversee what exactly the effect is that we're having in that area. So it's far easier if we're somewhere close by, or at least where our marketing or our admissions is close by, that they can actually see what the effect is of what we're doing. It's very important. And of course, we're still a worldwide organisation, with me in Europe and you in the US, and our friends in all over the other in a lot of other Asian countries and South American countries.
I just don't. My fear, okay, is that we really don't want. I'm really trying to build a non. And this is funny. This gentleman said that was a little bit nuts, me thinking this way, but I want to have a global team, a diverse team. And because that fills in the weak spots, the blind spots that we all have, but we have to start somewhere. So we'll deal and use the Northeast as our test bed, but we still can. Again, our first students are actually enrolled from somewhere in California, so we're not limited to the Northeast, but we're going to use the Northeast as a test bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions, Daniel?
No, I didn't really. I don't have any questions for you on what on anything that you've been mentioning. I was actually quite excited to see this item on the list, because I think it's I've always seen there's a certain amount of problem that we're not close enough to our students, and I think that the closer we are to our students, as you say, we need to discover who our students are. If we're close to our students, we can learn more about them, or potential students, we can learn more about them. So there's lots of I don't want to say potential, but there's lots of possibilities there if we're actually can sit at the same table with students, with future students.
Yeah, I think until we've got to still push ourselves in terms of the digital, how we use the digital piece to organize. I don't want us to turn into the standard admissions piece, because I don't think that's effective for what we want to do. But just the fact of being able to have a test group is going to help move us forward. Then, of course, we do have enough sophistication to understand that different places on the planet have other cultural issues that crop up in terms of marketing to students and thinking about how to fit that in. But we can navigate that as our faculty improves and we develop contacts in these specific areas, and we'll see. But I know this is a winner. Everybody tells me that Aplerno is a winner and is going to have an effect. We have to just be patient and constantly, recognize, hey, something's not going well. Oop, time to switch. Okay.
Yep.
And I do. The only question would be is, are we reacting fast enough to the information that we get, or are we, are we slow in terms of dealing with those pieces? I think we're pretty good at reacting fast to new data that contradicts what we're up to. But we'll see. That's in the closed meeting. We won't. Let's not air we won't air that laundry out. Now. So why don't we, unless you have some final things to say, let's go to the closed meeting.
No, well, I don't have anything final to say except for press this button to subscribe to our channel. And if you want to see any of, I know we didn't have one last week, but if you want to see the last from the week before that, you want to see our team meeting, I have a beautiful picture of this guy here. Gorgeous. So click on him if you're watching the recorded video, and you'll be able to see the last week the team meeting from 2 weeks ago. And yeah, but I think that's all from me. That leaves Rob to say.
We'll see you online.
Yay! We should have an outro music for sure.